and denuclearization. Along with Ambassador Gregg, I think, in my opinion, there will be more six-party talks, and they will be successful. However, the manner of the negotiation will be almost as important as the content. So far, the effort has been based on a sequential treatment of the issues with action for action. And I think this may have been one of the major reasons for the breakdown of the negotiations. Indeed, during the course of these negotiations, action was not always followed by action. And the sequencing of the various elements of the package, which was meant to be comprehensive, meant that the parties were taking the negotiations on faith that the final package would someday be put in place. It was very difficult, I think, to maintain trust in the process under these conditions. So I am very encouraged by the recent declarations of the US administration to the effect that a comprehensive package needs to be negotiated. The previous package had a comprehensive intent. So what seems to distinguish this proposal is some idea that the package should be negotiated as a whole and perhaps simultaneously. By this sort of negotiating technique, it may be possible to negotiate without the requirement of action for action until the final phase of the negotiation. Clearly, however, some of the concessions that had been made may have to be reinstated to be able to proceed. This is a question rather than a statement, I think. Flexibility across the board will be the key to success. The negotiations seem to have stumbled over the verification issue, which might have been better handled in two parts, at the disablement and also the dismantlement phase. The food aid and heavy fuel oil may also have to be delivered. As for the assistance from South Korea, some of the preconditions which are now attached to it may have to be modified. We are faced with two options in regard to North Korea: a policy of containment or one of negotiation. A policy of containment to ensure non-proliferation has not worked very well in the past, and an agreement on denuclearization will be a more effective and fundamental means of ensuring non-proliferation. I know that opinion is very divided on whether the government in Pyongyang really wants to denuclearize or not. I happen to think they do, but whether one believes this or not, the only way to test the issue is to have a comprehensive negotiation to actually get to the bottom of the question. However, such a negotiation, to be successful, will require all parties to carry out their side of the bargain in a way which can create the necessary conditions of trust. A simultaneous negotiation of all aspects may enable such a negotiation to succeed where others have failed. The range of challenges that we face will require a very concerted effort both at regional and multilateral levels. I have tried to spell out some of the important issues that need to be addressed and that are in the process of being addressed. The degree of regional integration and cooperation in East Asia is still relatively weak, but as the challenges continue to mount, I strongly believe that more cooperation and integration will become inevitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Vice Minister Shin.
Good morning, Ambassador Donald Gregg, distinguished ambassadors on the panel, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased and honored to be invited to the 5th Jeju Peace Forum and have an opportunity to share my ideas on multilateral security cooperation in East Asia. As practitioner of diplomacy, I believe that we on the panel would all agree that the goal of diplomacy is to seek a common perception for the common good of peace, prosperity, and progress. Institutions that embody shared understanding and ways to cooperate have proved to be very valuable in this regard. With this thought in mind, we need to ask 4 interconnected questions and seek the answers to each of them to address today's topic. First, what is our security landscape? Second, what are the challenges and opportunities we face in the pursuit of multilateral security cooperation in East Asia? Third, how should our cooperation be guided? And fourth, what is the role of proactive diplomacy, which I think is the central theme of our session. Let me start with the first question by highlighting features of the security landscape in this region that affect the development of a multilateral security architecture in this region. The outstanding geopolitical contour of East Asia is its vastness and diversity. Indeed, it encompasses the sub-regions of Northeast Asia and Southeast Asia, each of which has its own distinctive security environment. Unlike other parts of the world, Northeast Asia has yet to overcome the last vestige of the Cold War, as is evidenced by the North Korean nuclear issue. Bilateral security arrangements constitute the key elements of the security architecture in this region, while the development of a multilateral security arrangement is in its embryonic stage. Having these characteristics, Northeast Asian countries mostly have relied on the ASEAN Regional Forum, ARF, for the development of multilateral security cooperation. In other words, ASEAN was in the driver's seat, while the three Northeast Asian countries were the passengers. On the other hand, Southeast Asia has steadily developed a regional security cooperation framework in which ASEAN plays a leading role. ASEAN has already declared that they have completed the first stage of multilateral security cooperation, namely confidence building, and moved to the next stage of preventive diplomacy. In this regard, the ARF has demonstrated its instrumental role as the first intergovernmental platform for materializing multilateral security dialogue and cooperation in East Asia. In recent years, East Asia has been developing a wide range of frameworks for multilateral security cooperation, such as ASEAN Plus 3 and the East Asia Summit. These new platforms are expanding the web of consultation and cooperation among states in the region by bringing new players on board. The development of a new multilateral security cooperation mechanism is accompanied by the gradual broadening of the agenda. In this regard, Track 2 dialogues such as CSCAP, the Council for Security Cooperation in the Asia-Pacific, and the NASEC, the Northeast Asia Cooperation Dialogue, are playing a complementary role by providing alternative fora for discussion and cooperation. Against this backdrop, East Asia continues to face many challenges. As the political dynamics in East Asia are rapidly changing, there is a need to build greater confidence among the countries in this region. Emerging transnational security issues such as piracy, terrorism, and transnational crime also present security threat. Yet, these challenges justify the pressing need for multilateral cooperation. In building up cooperation, we can fully utilize the potential of platforms for cooperation, ultimately leading to the development of institutions. Moreover, encouraging developments are evident. Major countries are engaged in increased interactions and are arriving at more converging perceptions and approaches to matters of common concern. I'm sure that increased dialogue and consultation with clear vision and insight will help create favorable environment for the multilateral security cooperation in East Asia. The role of the United States is critical to the maturation of multilateral security cooperation in East Asia. The strong support and leadership by the U.S. will contribute substantially to the development of multilateral security cooperation. Of prime importance in advancing multilateral security dialogue and cooperation in East Asia is the resolution of North Korean nuclear issue. North Korea itself also will benefit from the multilateral security architecture, which will provide North Korea with a venue for expressing their positions and pursuing cooperation with other countries in a stable manner. This in turn will enable North Korea to pull itself out of its self-imposed isolation. In the pursuit of multilateral security cooperation, I'd like to propose 3 principles to lead our collective endeavors. First, multilateral security cooperation in East Asia should be guided by openness. Countries in the region should be encouraged to participate in the process of facilitating regional cooperation. Second, the agenda for regional cooperation should be comprehensive and flexible. Emerging security challenges are comprehensive in nature and require a multifaceted and holistic approach. In light of the security environment in East Asia, a soft-ish to hard-ish approach, gradual approach, may be the most realistic and feasible. An agenda that can facilitate sub-regional as well as region-wide cooperation should be pursued, such as counterterrorism, transnational crime, sea land security, and climate change. Third, various regional endeavors should be harmonized. In the light of the existence of various regional cooperation arrangements in this region, the role of these arrangements should be coordinated in such a way as to synergize their work and minimize any possible duplication. Now, turning to the key question of the role of proactive diplomacy in promoting multilateral security cooperation in East Asia, I'd like to point out the following 4 points. First, countries in the region should strive to manage and resolve security issues peacefully. In East Asia, hard security issues, including the North Korean nuclear issue, maritime issues, and territorial disputes, are still looming large. East Asian countries should reinforce their diplomatic efforts to prevent these sources of possible tension from flaring up that could hamper the development of multilateral security cooperation in this region. Second, community building efforts should be actively pursued. In this regard, the economic, social, and cultural foundation should be strengthened, as was recommended by the report of East Asia and Vision Group several years ago. The roadmap toward the community building in East Asia was successfully presented in that report. So what we need now is to have the strong will of the states in the region to carry out the recommendations in the report. Third, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of the role of the major stakeholders, including the United States, China, Japan, and Russia. Participation by these countries in the six-party talks is a good case in point. We look forward to greater engagement of countries that share concerns as they work together in a multilateral way to resolve issues of common interest. In addition, the European Union can contribute to the building of a multilateral security cooperation architecture in East Asia by sharing its rich experience in Europe. Fourth, public relations and public diplomacy are one of the key elements for the advancement of multilateral security cooperation, as was rightly pointed out by Russian ambassador this morning. Support for multilateral security cooperation from domestic and regional constituents is an important asset in advancing multilateral security. In closing, I'd like to just reflect the following reflection. From my own experience, I firmly believe that the diplomacy is the art of turning divergence into convergence. In pursuing our common goal of building a community in East Asia, I feel greatly encouraged to witness the creative and constructive work of diplomacy in gradually moving us forward to realizing our shared aspiration. I look forward to the momentum for the JEDG process being sustained so that it can indeed play a valuable role in facilitating multilateral security cooperation in East Asia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Shin. And now, Ambassador Stevens, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Ambassador Gregg. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kathy Stevens, and I'm delighted to be here today. I have heard for a long time about the Jeju Peace Forum, the Jeju Peace Institute, and I really do congratulate you on this forum today. I feel like I have kind of the best and worst job right now. On the one hand, it's the worst because it's 5 minutes until lunch. And I am going to try to be brief, but the best, because, thank you, Don, because not only am I sharing a stage with my distinguished predecessor, from whom I have learned so much, and whose shoes I try to, maybe not exactly the same shoes, but I try to fill, but because my colleagues here on the stage, as well as Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and others I had from our Business Council earlier, have really said so much of what I want to say, and I endorse in very large and really almost complete measure all that's been said about the work we have before us and how we need to work together proactively and in a multilateral way. I thought what I might try to do is to be brief, but say a little bit about how, from the United States perspective, we see Asia. We certainly see ourselves as Pacific countries very briefly, and how we see the multilateral angle of this. And then, of course, talk a little bit about North Korea. I guess I've been really set up to do that. And if I may indulge myself, talk a little bit about how I see the role of the U.S.-ROK relationship and this great country, the Republic of Korea itself, if it doesn't seem too presumptuous. I'm struck by this comment, a common vision for mutual benefit and common prosperity. And the United States is, I think, proud, and I hope rightly so, of the role we have played over the years in East Asia in promoting peace, stability, and prosperity here. I was struck by Gunmin Chairman Kang's comment. Thankfully, he said it was bankers, right, who said, we learn the hard way and then we forget. It's kind of like the Churchill quote about the United States, where Churchill once said, he always had things to say. He said, I trust the Americans will always do the right thing after they have exhausted all the other options. Well, I don't think we've always exhausted all the other options, but I like to think that we have played a positive role and that we can continue to play a positive role in forging prosperity and overcoming the remaining security difficulties and the financial crisis that we face now in East Asia and indeed globally. Of course, a cornerstone, overused word, a cornerstone of U.S. efforts in East Asia have traditionally been our alliance relationships, and they continue to be very important. But we know that in this 21st century, we need to not only strengthen them, but also adapt them as times change. And that means, of course, not only our great alliance with the Republic of Korea, but also Japan, Australia, Philippines, and Thailand. And beyond that, of course, we look to strengthen key relationships. Others have talked already today about the relationship with China, the role of China. And then, and this is where I want to spend a few more minutes today, expanding our own participation in a variety of multilateral fora, not least of which is the six-party talks. Every time a new administration comes into office in Washington, and sometimes even between, I hear from a lot of people, the U.S. is so distracted, there are so many issues in the world, you're not paying enough attention to Asia. I hope that there have been some things that the Obama administration has done already and will continue to do in the remainder of this year to underscore the fact that it is well understood, I think, not only in the administration but throughout the United States, that no other part of the globe, and excuse me, Brian, Europe remains very important. I spent a lot of time there, but no other part of the globe holds greater potential benefits and challenges for the United States of America than East Asia. And we don't have to go through all the statistics. We know them in every regard, geopolitically, militarily, diplomatically, economically, commercially, socially, culturally. East Asia is increasingly, every day, vital to the national security interests and the prosperity and peace of the United States. And while this shift of resources and power and influence to Asia has, as others remarked, brought remarkable opportunities, not least to the people of this region, it also poses some dangers and some challenges. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Jeju Peace Forum over the past few years has begun to focus on this issue of greater multilateral engagement and a more proactive approach to regional engagement. Without a fixed regional structure that can cope with diverse cultural and political systems, that can encourage a security dialogue, given the vast differences, I think probably greater than in Europe, of wealth, population, competition for limited energy resources, border disputes, conflicting historical legacies, nationalism, all these kinds of issues really do challenge us to find greater ways to strengthen a dialogue across the region. Regional energy demands and the lack of natural resources could potentially lead to future regional confrontation. And there's also, again, a need for multilateral security cooperation that keeps pace with the economic and political growth and development of this region. So given all that, and I think we've made the case here this morning, the other speakers have made it extremely eloquently, it's not a question of whether or not our nations should cooperate to achieve these ends in a multilateral forum, but rather how we do that, how we build that architecture of cooperation in the region and globally to devise the right policies and use the right tools for the right solutions. Now, I'd like to point to just a couple of examples of where we're trying to direct our efforts as the United States. APEC, of course, has always been a very important institution for us, and I appreciated those who were commenting in the earlier panel on some of their engagement in APEC. The United States looks forward to hosting APEC in the United States next year, or in 2011, excuse me. And I don't think we've picked a city yet, but the work has also already begun on that. And with President Obama, I think, coming to Singapore at the end of the year for the APEC summit here, it will be a busy time ahead filled with some opportunities. And then, of course, just last month, Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton was at the ASEAN Regional Forum, the ARF, one of my favorite acronyms. And it was her first one, and she remarked, not on the songs, but on the productivity of the sessions. I think those of you who may follow this, or perhaps were there, saw a real seriousness and substantive effort to grapple with some issues that have been, frankly, difficult for the ARF to deal with in the past. And most importantly, for the United States, we were very, very pleased to sign the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, which is not only a symbol, but a basis for even greater engagement by the United States with ASEAN and with our friends and partners in the region going forward. There's a lot of other multilateral cooperation in the region, and I suppose we could touch on a few of them. We thank the South Korean government in particular for its decision to participate in the Proliferation Security Initiative, along with other East Asian nations in countering proliferation threats. And we appreciate the commitments that come from all the countries, including all those represented here on this podium, to dissuade all countries from facilitating directly or indirectly through PSI and other programs efforts to proliferate nuclear and missile technologies. So I guess that kind of brings me to North Korea, where in recent months, to our dismay, Pyongyang has continued to challenge the international community through its pursuit of nuclear weapons and through its recent missile launches. I want to underscore that the United States, I believe with our allies and partners who have indicated a clear view as well, that we will not accept a North Korea that tries to maintain, develop nuclear weapons or to launch ballistic missiles and proliferate nuclear materials. Nor will we stay silent in the face of the egregious human rights abuses perpetuated in North Korea. We want to find opportunities to indeed broaden the opportunities for the people, all the people of this peninsula, including in North Korea, to share again in that common prosperity and mutual benefit which has so characterized our work in the rest of the region over these past decades. It has been proactive diplomacy that has underpinned the international community's unequivocal and nearly unanimous response to North Korea's actions and the message that we have sent to North Korea about the path that we feel would be far more fruitful. The passage of UN Security Council Resolution 1874, the work that is being done in the UN is important in this regard. But this is a means to an end, not an end in itself, as we try to use tools that will curb North Korea's unacceptable activities, to put pressure on those who would engage in programs of proliferation. We want to find another way. And that, of course, is a return, as the other speakers have said, to dialogue, a return to working together to find a better future, a better path for the people of North Korea and indeed a more secure peace and security for the entire region. Now, I take Ambassador Gregg's point about sometimes how a non-democratic country has a little trouble, I think, with some of our democratic processes. And I, too, have heard complaints sometimes about continuity and maybe sometimes from other countries as well. But, you know, I'd have to say about our efforts, U.S. efforts vis-a-vis the six-party talks over the last some months, probably there's been more continuity than absence of it. Because I think what you've heard us say again and again is, you know, we think we're on the right track here in terms of both the process, and that process being getting the countries most concerned and most engaged. And we heard very passionately from the Russian ambassador Russia's great interest in this. We've heard from other speakers here of how, and of course from the Vice Minister, of how we have all six countries in the six-party process have such a direct and vital interest in seeing North Korea choose another path and re-engage in a process of dialogue. So we believe that the continuity, and indeed it's a continuity that goes back even beyond, again, as Ambassador Craig was saying, even before the previous administration, to efforts in the 90s. We who work as diplomats know we always stand on the shoulders of others and build on the efforts of others. But we look back to the September 2005 Joint Statement of Principles in particular, agreed to by the six parties, including the DPRK, now 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago. And I think it still lays out a vision, a rather comprehensive vision, although in principle, of the future, the better future we'd like to see for this region and the world. And of course, that is a denuclearized Korean peninsula. It's a process that will bring the kind of energy and economic support and assistance which will allow the DPRK to develop the potentials of its people and its land, a permanent peace arrangement, and normalized relations, not only with the United States, but with Japan. Believe me, I don't underestimate the difficulties of it, and I appreciate the comments that have been made here today about how we might approach them. But I do want to underscore that the U.S. commitment to achieving those goals and achieving them through a process of dialogue and diplomacy remains unchanged. The path is open, and it is up to the leaders in Pyongyang to take it. Now, as we strengthen our alliances, as we work in multilateral fora, we will continue to be a committed partner in the success of institutions I'm not sure I call the six-party talks an institution yet, but we're committed to that. But institutions like ASEAN, APEC, and the ARF. And at the same time, we recognize that our success will in large measure depend on the direction China takes as it emerges as a growing regional and global power. And as we underscored in our first session in the Obama administration in our senior dialogue with China that Secretary Clinton and Secretary Geithner led just a couple of weeks ago, we welcome a confident, peaceful, and prosperous China where we can nurture and expand our economic and security cooperation. And I want to also add the United States welcomes multilateral cooperation and the development of multilateral institutions that sometimes the U.S. is not a member of. We think that's a natural part of the maturity of the region. We, of course, hope to stay engaged, but we understand there's going to be all kinds of cross-cutting institutions, and we welcome that kind of development. Finally, I want to say, I went much too long. Just a word about Korea, because I'm very struck by this Jeju Peace Forum and its goals. I first came to Korea in the 1970s when Korea was just beginning to really develop economically. It was a time where you literally saw economic change in people's lives day by day. I came back in the 80s for a period of extraordinary political change as Korea got irreversibly on the path of democratization. And now as I come back here now and I think about what the Jeju Peace Forum is aiming at, it seems to me the Republic of Korea, and certainly its relations with the rest of the world, with the United States, is looking to kind of take the next step on two levels. And one, of course, is here on the peninsula, the unfinished business here on the peninsula. And the other, as Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said earlier, is its global role, its role in the G20, its role in the United Nations, its role throughout the world. I believe this is the right time to do that, and we look forward to working not only with the Republic of Korea, but with our partners throughout the region towards those shared goals. Thank you very much.
Well, my thank you to all the members of this panel. I think the North Korean issue is difficult but not impossible, and as long as we have diplomats such as those from whom we have heard today, continuing to work on the issue, I view the future with great optimism. So thanks to all the panel. Please give them a hand, and now let us go and have lunch. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please give a warm round of applause to Ambassador Donald Gregg for his excellent chairmanship, and also for presenters. All of you are invited to the luncheon to be held from 12:40. The venue is Diamond Hall, which is the basement 1. And please be back here before 2:10 p.m. We are going to have the sixth and last plenary session at 2:10. 12시 40분부터 자유오찬이 지하 1층 다이아몬드 홀에서 진행될 예정입니다. 즐거운 오찬 갖기 바라고요. 오후 2시 10분부터는 제6차 전체 회의가 시작되니 2시까지 내빈 여러분께서는 모두 입장을 완료해 주시기 바랍니다. 감사합니다.